The diversity of styles brought laughter, warmth, and simple life lessons that touched the viewers. But few suspected that behind that aura were hidden tragedies, losses, illnesses, and even deaths that shook the world. Who were they, and why was fate so cruel? Let's uncover the truth and honor the legacy they left behind. Don't forget to subscribe and share this video. Charlotte Rae as Edna Garrett. Charlotte Rae Lubatsky was born on April 22, 1926 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. In 1978, at the age of 52, she took on another role, Edna Garrett, the devoted housewife of the Drummond family. With her warm and authentic performance, Rae transformed Edna from a supporting character to one of the most beloved characters on television. Outside the spotlight, Rae's life was filled with hardship and compassion. She married the musician John Strauss and had 2 children. But their marital happiness quickly disintegrated when Strauss publicly revealed his sexual orientation, and the marriage ended in divorce in 1976. To make matters worse, her eldest son Andrew, who was born with autism and epilepsy, died at the age of 44. This loss weighed heavily on Rae for many years. She turned to Alcoholics Anonymous to deal with her alcoholism and find spiritual support in the midst of constant turmoil. Family tragedies were accompanied by serious health problems. Since the early 1980s, Rae has had a pacemaker and has undergone numerous heart surgeries to stay alive. In 2009, she was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, the same disease that claimed the lives of her mother and sister. 6 months of chemotherapy brought her a temporary victory, but less than a decade later, at age 91, Rae received devastating news again: terminal bone cancer. Her lean frame, once a formidable force on Broadway, now suffers from constant pain. On August 5, 2018, Charlotte Rae passed away at her home in Los Angeles at the age of 92. She left behind a fortune estimated at $4 million, but more importantly, she left a spiritual legacy, the image of a tender mother who hides the deep wounds of her heart with her smile and loyalty. In public memory, Charlotte Rae is not only Edna Garrett from Diff'rent Strokes and Facts of Life, but also a symbol of female resilience, facing tragedy with exceptional kindness and strength. Dixie Carter, Maggie McKinney Drummond. Dixie Virginia Carter was born on May 25, 1939, in Macklemooresville, Tennessee. In 1984, at the age of 45, she joined Diff'rent Strokes as Maggie McKinney Drummond, Philip Drummond's second wife. Although her role was short-lived, Dixie cemented her place as a warm, motherly figure in the sitcom world of the 1980s. She spent her childhood and the beginning of her career in music and theater. But her private life was also turbulent. She married businessman Arthur Carter and had 2 daughters before leaving the stage for 8 years to raise them. However, this sacrifice culminated in the end of her marriage, leaving her a single mother and having to rebuild her career. The big comeback to Broadway and then to television showed Dixie's determination, despite the long nights of struggling to survive and the pressures of motherhood in the demanding world of entertainment. In the 1980s and 1990s, she reached the pinnacle of her career with her role in the series Designing Women, which established Julia Sugarbaker as a feminist icon on screen. At the same time, however, Dixie struggled with age-related insecurities, admitting to resorting to plastic surgery and growth hormones to maintain her image. In her personal life, she experienced 2 failed marriages before finding peace with actor Hal Holbrook. This 3rd marriage for her became a unique source of strength that helped her overcome loneliness and uncertainty after many stormy years. On April 10, 2010, Dixie Carter died in Houston, Texas, of complications from endometrial cancer at the age of 70. She was buried in her hometown of Macklemooresville. where her childhood memories were born. At the time of her death, Dixie left behind an estate worth approximately $10 million, the result of decades of tireless artistic work. Conrad Bain as Philip Drummond. Conrad Stafford Bain was born on February 4, 1923, in Lethbridge, Alberta, Canada. At the age of 55, he began to excel in various roles. From 1978 to 1986, playing Philip Drummond, a wealthy but compassionate father who adopts two orphaned boys and builds a unique family. His television performance became a model of calmness and kindness, connecting millions of viewers with the character over 8 seasons. However, out of the spotlight, Conrad had a difficult childhood. He enlisted in the Army for World War II, carrying with him harrowing memories of the bombings and the constant fear of death. After returning to civilian life, he decided on an acting career. However, instead of being accepted, Conrad spent years struggling with mediocre roles and living with the constant anxiety that he couldn't survive. The pressure not only sapped his energy, but also left him in a constant state of stress, a hidden burden that few noticed beneath the calmness he projected on screen. In his private life, he could not escape a sadness that evoked sympathy. His marriage to Monica Sloan appeared to be solid, but in reality, he was constantly tested by distance. Conrad was often away from home, working on film sets, while Monica shouldered the burden of raising 3 children. Unspoken conflicts and tensions continued, and in his old age, the greatest pain was Monica's death in 2009. His partner of more than 6 decades left an irreparable void, and Conrad spent the last years of his life alone, without emotional support. This contrast, the emotional Philip Drummond on screen and the older and lonely Conrad Bain in real life, made the audience feel even more compassion and sadness. On January 14, 2013, Conrad Bain died in Livermore, California, after suffering a stroke at the age of 89. He was cremated in a simple ceremony, marking the end of an artist who devoted his life to stage and screen. At the time of his death, he left behind a fortune estimated at $5 million, which is a testament to his long and successful career. Nedra Volz as Adelaide Brubaker. Nedra Volz was born on June 18, 1908 in Montrose, Iowa, USA. At the age of 70, she unexpectedly became a recognizable figure to television viewers, thanks to her role as Adelaide Brubaker, a kind but witty housewife with a wide range of styles. Stepping out of the Charlotte Rae void, Nedra brought in a breath of fresh air. Small, nimble, and good-natured, she became the beloved grandmother of millions of viewers. However, in order to reach this belated recognition, Nedra had to go through many peaceful and sometimes bitter years. Born into a family of traveling performers, she first appeared on stage as baby Nedra, but life took her on a different path. She became a wife and mother, devoting herself to raising 2 children. Her first marriage ended in divorce, while her second, to Orrin William Volz, provided her with stability until his death in 1987. The loss left Nedra deeply lonely, and the joy she brought to the stage was sometimes just a mask hiding her inner emptiness. Behind her energetic exterior lay years of debilitating illness. In her final days, her career in decline, she struggled with devastating Alzheimer's disease, which gradually stripped her of the memory and mental acuity that had once made her so charming. She died on January 20, 2003, in Mesa, Arizona, at the age of 94. She left a lasting mark on the hearts of viewers, as did her character, Adelaide Brubaker, small, resilient, and full of love. With a net worth of $1 million, barely enough to support her family, Nedra left her greatest legacy, her laughter and gentleness, which viewers still remember her for today. Gary Coleman as Arnold Jackson. Gary Wayne Coleman was born on February 8, 1968, in Zion, Illinois. In 1978, at the age of 10, This tiny 4'4" boy with a congenital kidney disease suddenly became a global star in a multitude of roles. As Arnold Jackson, the mischievous youngest of the Drummond family, Gary became famous for his catchphrase, "Willis, what are you talking about?" which became an American cultural catchphrase of the 1980s. For 8 seasons, from childhood to adolescence, Gary was not only the soul of the show, but also the most famous television child star. However, this fame came with deep pain. The boy earned tens of millions of dollars, but his childhood was almost stolen from him due to a grueling filming schedule and a serious illness that required him to take medication, undergo dialysis, and 2 failed kidney transplants. After years of hard work, Gary discovered that his adoptive parents and guardians had taken control of his estate, forcing him to sue his own family. The traumatic experience left him with a sense of betrayal and distrust for the rest of his life. Loneliness led him to depression, and at his lowest point, he attempted suicide twice. As he grew up, Gary's life became increasingly chaotic. His turbulent marriage to Shannon Price quickly turned into a nightmare, filled with conflict, emotional abuse, and media scandals. In the meantime, he was embroiled in a series of fights, lawsuits, and arrests, including reckless driving and even attacks on fans. His film career failed, and he survived on supporting roles, appearances on television shows that satirized his image, and occasional work at a model train store to pursue his hobby. He went from making $100,000 an episode as a child star to bankruptcy, debt, and exhaustion. On May 28, 2010, Gary Coleman died at Utah Valley Hospital at the age of 42 after falling down the stairs and suffering a head injury that caused a cerebral hemorrhage. His death was controversial, with family, friends, and his ex-wife arguing over the funeral arrangements until it was eventually called off. Gary's death left him with virtually no handicaps. Tens of millions of dollars he made were lost to lawsuits, illness, and mistakes. His death became a tragic example of the curse of the child star, a talented comedian trapped in the endless cycle of life, leaving behind millions of fans who laughed at Arnold Jackson's every line. Mary Jo Catlett as Pearl Gallagher. Mary Jo Catlett was born on September 2, 1938 in Denver, Colorado. At the age of 44, she officially entered the world of American television, playing Pearl Gallagher in the 1982 series Diff'rent Strokes, a witty and affectionate host who helped fill the void in the Drummond family. Although Pearl is not the central character of the film, she brings a human dimension and a sense of connection to the film. She makes viewers fall in love with her character as a well-known member of a small TV family. However, behind Pearl's humor, Mary Jo constantly feels the tension of being drawn into the story. With her curvaceous figure and delicate face, she was constantly cast in comedic supporting roles, while her desire to play more complex, multi-dimensional characters rarely came true. It was a silent tragedy. She worked tirelessly, her face was known to the audience, but she was rarely considered a star. The pressures of her career undermined her confidence at times, but instead of giving in, she channeled the pain into the strength she needed to move forward. In her personal life, Mary Jo also experienced years of loneliness in love. She devoted almost her entire life to stage and screen, sacrificing her personal happiness to maintain a career in this challenging industry. Long tours, disappointing roles, and the emptiness of returning to a peaceful environment often left her feeling lost. But in the midst of this darkness, she found light on stage, and then in the world of voice acting, where her charm and perseverance earned her recognition and respect. Today, at age 85, Mary Jo Catlett remains a strong presence in the arts, best known as Mrs. Puff in SpongeBob SquarePants. She doesn't live a life of luxury, but her estimated net worth of $3 million, along with the admiration of her peers and the public, attests to her steady career. From Pearl Gallagher in Diff'rent Strokes to Mrs. Puff in the animated series, Mary Jo became an iconic artist who dedicated herself to her craft, pushing boundaries to leave an indelible mark. Danny Cooksey as Sam McKinney. Danny Cooksey was born on November 2, 1975 in Moore, Oklahoma. In 1984, at the age of 9, the red-haired, blue-eyed boy joined the sitcom Diff'rent Strokes as Sam McKinney, the adopted son who appeared in the show's final seasons. Despite his youth, Cooksey quickly became a household name, bringing innocence and a touch of mischief to a series that was slowly beginning to decline. However, behind that childhood glory lies a difficult path. Danny moved to Los Angeles with his mother in 1980 to pursue a career in country music, which led to a disastrous acting career. But early fame also brought enormous pressure, harsh comparisons with older colleagues, and the loneliness of a boy excluded from a normal childhood. The pain was further compounded by the tragic death of his close friend and colleague, Dana Plato, who died of a drug overdose in 1999. Danny personally attended the funeral, saying goodbye to her. As an adult, Cooksey worked to distance himself from his child star image. He has explored various careers, from singing in the heavy metal band Bad for Good with Steve Vai, to lending his voice to popular animated series such as The Adventures of Tiny Tiny Tiny, where he provided the voice of Montana Max. However, his personal life remains turbulent. His marriage to Amber Lee Cooksey, which lasted more than 2 decades, is in shambles as he filed for divorce. Despite this, they still have 2 children, Zoe Lee and Jackson Paul, who remain his greatest strength. In 2025, at the age of 50, Danny Cooksey continues to devote himself to his craft, from teaching acting to a career as a speaker, maintaining close relationships with many of his former colleagues. He may no longer live in the limelight, but his estimated net worth of $5 million is the result of perseverance and unwavering passion. His journey from a young Sam McKinney with a different approach to life to a seasoned artist reflects a fierce determination to overcome both fleeting fame and real-life tragedies. Dana Plato as Kimberly Drummond. Dana Michelle Plato was born on November 7, 1964 in Huntington Park, California. At the age of 13, she played Kimberly Drummond in the series Diff'rent Strokes, 1978 to 1986. The beautiful and tender daughter of millionaire Philip Drummond and the older sister of Arnold and Willis. With her blonde hair and innocent smile, Dana quickly became an American teen idol, staying with the audience for many seasons and becoming a television star. But behind all that glamour lay a childhood deprived of emotional support. Abandoned by her biological mother and adopted by a family that did not care about her, Dana grew up in an uncertain situation. At the height of her career, she became pregnant with her son Tyler, which is why the producers wrote her out of the series. In the blink of an eye, she went from a rising star to a young mother in her 20s, with a career in shambles. Losing her footing and position in Hollywood, she turned to alcohol and drugs to fill the void. Her marriage to musician Lanny Lambert, which seemed to promise happiness, soon ended in divorce. Dana lost custody of Tyler, was forced to live apart from him in grief, and witnessed the death of her own mother. Those shocks that followed left her devastated. To survive, she starred in B-movies, posed for Playboy, and was even arrested after attempting to rob a video store with a fake gun. A series of scandals, from prescription drug fraud to multiple arrests and working in a laundromat, transformed her from a teenage screen goddess to a tragic symbol of the child star's curse. On May 8, 1999, Dana Plato died in a trailer park in Oklahoma, just 1 day after appearing on The Howard Stern Show. Her death, caused by an overdose of painkillers and barbiturates, is being ruled a suicide. She was only 34 years old. At the time of her death, Her net worth was just $500,000, a fraction of the millions she earned as a teen idol. The tragedy did not end there. In 2010, her son Tyler also committed suicide at the age of 25. This double tragedy saddened fans who forever remembered Dan Plato as Kimberly Drummond, a cursed star whose bright smile bypassed a life full of suffering. Janet Jackson as Charlene Dupre. Janet Demita Jo Jackson was born on May 16, 1966 in Gary, Indiana, United States. At the age of 13, she joined the cast of the television series Diff'rent Strokes as Charlene Dupre, Willis Jackson's sweet and innocent first girlfriend. The character of Charlene not only brought sweetness and tenderness to the film, but also served as an important stepping stone for Janet, helping her to step out of the shadow of the younger Jackson sister and prove her acting talent before becoming a world music star. However, behind her innocent screen appearance lay years of pressure. Growing up in a respectable but turbulent family, Janet endured the strict control of her father, Joseph Jackson. From a young age, she was under pressure to practice, be perfect, and never make mistakes. This pressure often left Janet stressed, lonely, and insecure about her own worth. After Diff'rent Strokes, she continued to find her place in Hollywood, but struggled with her desire for independence and the oppressive shadow of her brother Michael Jackson. Janet also suffered greatly in her private life. Her first secret marriage to singer James DeBarge in 1984 quickly disintegrated due to internal strife and DeBarge's drug scandal, leaving her in constant trouble. She then married film director Rene Elizondo Jr., but the relationship ended in a stormy lawsuit in 2000. These traumatic events often pushed Janet into crisis. However, music and inner strength helped her rise again, resulting in legendary albums like Control, 1986, and Rhythm Nation, 1989. Today, at the age of 59, Janet Jackson continues to perform, tour the world, and maintain her firm position as a pop icon. With an estimated net worth of over $180 million, Janet is not only one of the richest artists in the world, but also living proof of resilience who overcame pain to shine with talent and determination. The role of Charlene Dupre may have been just a minor setback in her huge career, but it opened the door to a long, difficult, and famous journey for the irreplaceable star. The smiles on the screen have faded, leaving only memories and a lasting legacy. What was your most touching moment from Diff'rent Strokes? Share it with us. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us in remembering the stars who have passed away. Todd Bridges as Willis Jackson. Todd Anthony Bridges was born on May 27, 1965 in San Francisco, California. He grew up in a family with a strong artistic tradition. His father was a talent manager, and his mother was an actress. In 1978, at the age of 13, Todd was cast as Willis Jackson on the sitcom Diff'rent Strokes, making him a teen star alongside Gary Coleman and Dana Plato. However, his early exposure to the spotlight paved the way for a tumultuous personal life. Off the set, Todd struggled with unimaginable tragedies. At only 11 years old, he was sexually abused by a close family friend, a trauma that haunted him for years. Caught in the whirlwind of fame, he started smoking marijuana at the age of 15 and soon turned to cocaine and methamphetamine. His addictions dragged him into darkness, and he began dealing drugs to fuel his destructive habits. His personal life was also full of problems. His marriage to Dory Smith ended in divorce, leaving Todd devastated. His darkest moment came in 1989, when Todd was arrested and put on trial for the attempted murder of a drug dealer. Prosecutors claimed he was the shooter, and Todd lived for months in fear of a life sentence. Fortunately, a witness testified that he was not at the scene, and Todd was acquitted. But the image of a former child star involved in crime, violence, and drugs almost destroyed his career. It wasn't until 1993 that Todd decided to pull himself together and start over. He gradually rebuilt his image through minor roles, television appearances, and an autobiography that revealed the truth behind the spotlight. Today, at the age of 60, Todd Bridges remains the last surviving lead singer of the band Diff'rent Strokes. He continues to appear on television, occasionally in reality shows, and actively works to combat drug addiction and helps young people. Todd has managed to rise from the depths of addiction, rebuild his life, and maintains an estimated net worth of $4 million. Stephen Mond as Robbie Jason. Stephen David Mond was born on May 12, 1971 in Canada. At the age of 8, he was cast as Robbie Jason, a colleague of Arnold and Willis. With his dashing good looks, bright eyes, and natural acting chops, Stephen quickly became a household name on television in the late 1970s, appearing in such films as Chips, Quincy M.E., and most notably, 1941-1979 by Steven Spielberg. However, the spotlight did not allow him a peaceful childhood. While his classmates continued to play in the schoolyard, Stephen had to deal with the demanding filming schedule, high expectations, and loneliness of a young actor. He went through periods of crisis, unsure whether to devote himself to acting or a safer path. His tearful decision to leave Hollywood while his career was still in full swing was a turning point, but it saved him from a vicious cycle that many of his peers never got out of. In addition to acting, it also marked his personal life. In 2001, Stephen married Ellis Bank and had a son with her, but the marriage soon fell apart and ended in divorce. The breakup weighed heavily on him as he faced long days as a single father, trying to balance work with emotional pain. Instead of chasing lost fame, Stephen chose a job as a math teacher, a quiet job that gave him new meaning as he watched his students grow and succeed. It was his way of healing and regaining his self-respect. Stephen Mond is 54 years old today and still teaches at RSL Academy High School in Harriman, Utah. In 2018, he made headlines when he became a finalist on Jeopardy's Teacher Challenge, winning $25,000. From the boy who played Robbie Jason to the humble teacher he is today, Stephen's story is a testament to his resilience, overcoming the fragility of fame and finding lasting happiness. His current net worth is estimated to be around $1 to $2 million. It is a modest sum, but worthy of his tireless efforts in art and life.